What is at stake if there is no poetry? Like, what would, in the absence of poetry, how would we as a culture even know how to make sense of ourselves?
Does anybody have an imagining of a world without poetry? I mean, after all, many people around the world, many people here where we're talking, this city, get through a day, a week, a month, a year without reading a poem or thinking about a poem. So in a way, who needs it?
I don't really think that we can imagine a world without poetry. It's one of the oldest forms of communication that we've had. Even in the English language, we have a word prose, which is used to describe anything that is not poetry.
Yes, and comes much later. Remember, it knocked me out when I learned in graduate school that poetry came with long, long time. Prose was a late development. First there's poetry, then this crazy thing of actually having language is not poetry. Other thoughts about this?
Music might substitute for poetry, and the lyrics of music often are.
Most people in our country, in the course of a day, hear quite a lot of music. If you set out to avoid hearing music, you probably couldn't succeed because they play it in the supermarket, they play it in the elevator, and young men in trucks play it for you when they're stopped at the traffic light. I read a piece recently in the newspaper about small children, infants, who are tremendously damaged, not just by not being picked up, the famous thing of the orphanages, if they aren't spoken to, even infants, spoken to, sung to, read to. And it reminded me of my recent experience as a grandpa. I discovered with little Benjamin that singing to him and reciting poetry to him produces exactly the same effect. Benjamin does not see a difference, and I believe that I can perceive him responding to it. He takes the same kind of comfort or interest when I sing to him as when I recite to him. One of the main things I say with the little baby, pushing a little baby in a baby swing, out of my mouth came, and it got it was a hit. Mm-hmm. Sing, sing, what shall we sing? The cats run away with the pudding string. He probably has no idea. I may have recognized the word cat. I don't know what the hell a pudding string is. We don't care. Sing, sing, what shall we sing? The cats run away with the pudding string. And it tells a little narrative. There's a bit of a story in it. And I just realized that the poem itself, the nursery rhyme, has sing, sing in it. And it probably came into my mind through the rhyme of swing. I didn't know any nursery rhymes that said swing, swing. So Benjamin and I got a charge out of sing, sing. What shall we sing? And it's not only the story of the cat causing a minor domestic accident, it's also the story of looking for something to say. Mm-hmm. Sing, sing, what shall we sing? And to picture, we could have had a good time silently swinging too, but to imagine not having that resource for him or for me, it's useful to put that question. What would a culture be like that didn't have that? And I guess my suggestion is that it isn't exactly understanding. It's the smell and touch of understanding. It's a feeling. It produces a feeling that's related to meaning, but it's not the same as meaning.
There's a really deep human need for structure. And I'm a musician too, and I think often about lyric writing, but about beats too. Mm-hmm. You know, why is it every culture has a drum? Every culture has some form of rhythmic structure and sound. And poetry it can be abstract or it can be literal and it can be scientific or not, but every culture has some way of communicating and that structured language. And I think as we grow older, when we're babies, you know, maybe that structure is soothing or comforting or has something deep in our lizard brains that it, you know, wants to attach to. But as we grow as people, poetry is often a way of transmitting history of people, a world.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why prose probably came later, is that, oral histories are often passed in a way that's easy to remember. My family has roots in India, and I remember my grandmother and my parents always reciting poems to me that they heard. It wasn't things that they necessarily read in college, but, and I didn't know what they were saying. They were saying it in our mother tongue, but I could feel it, even though I didn't know what the words meant.
Yes,
and
that's
so,
it.
Yeah, it's
That's
powerful.
It. You do feel it. And it is allied to meaning. It's a sibling of meaning. It goes along with meaning. And it's its own thing too. And it's in us.